Nigel, would you mind sharing a little bit more about your perspective on the opportunity in industrial?
Thanks, Chloe. Well, it's great to be here. This conversation around B2B versus B2C is really quite interesting. We often talk about the fact that we're losing the differentiation between B2B and B2C because essentially all business buyers are consumers at heart. But when we look at e-commerce in particular and sort of the ability to transact and trade digitally, what we've seen in B2C is really a bit like the tide coming in when compared to B2B. B2B is a bit more like a tsunami that follows. What we mean by that is the scale of the change. The scale of the change that's coming in manufacturing, in all avenues of B2B really, are so big compared to what we've seen in B2C. It's order of magnitude different. And the challenge is that most B2B companies were not designed for this, right? So most organizations, manufacturing firms, were designed to be able to scale high quality products in a global market, and certainly the large firms. And so to do that, it's an industrial era model, and it's really a very hierarchical model. It's sort of a pyramid, if you think, very command and control. And it works great for being able to scale products around the world consistently. But it's not really designed to change very fast. And so when you need a business model that needs to respond to rapid changes in the market, to rapid emerging changes in emerging technologies, that model needs to fundamentally change. And so we describe that as the transformation that actually has to take place to move from a product-centric company to a digital business. A digital business is one that drives revenue from technology, from software. And so you may wrap software around physical products and services, or you may simply use that software to drive a large portion of your business. It's a very different environment than what we've seen today.
Steve, so I know you're really close to the customers, and based on Nigel's perspective, what are some other points that you wanted to expand on, really saying what do practitioners see in the market happening right now?
Yeah, great question, Chloe and Nigel, great points. And I think what we see in large part working with a lot of our clients who operate some form of a B2B model is trying to adapt to some of these just changing demands from their end customers. And so there is this transformation that they're trying to adapt to right now, and it's a transformation in response to a channel shift that is going on. And so when we say a channel shift, there we're really referring to kind of the classic way either a manufacturer or a distributor would have gone to market with the products and services. And when I say that, if you're a manufacturer, you're making things, you rely on your channel partners or affiliates, right, to bring your products to market. And in the case of a distributor, you're really looking to provide, enhanced distribution services around the products that you distribute for, again, your supply chain or providers. And historically, they've relied on just classic channels to bring these things to market. And when it comes to selling and servicing those products, again, traditional means to do that. So I may have branded or manufacturing reps out in the field, or I may take orders from literally a fax or an inbound call center. Or if I have a digital channel for self-service, great, e-commerce would be another one of those ways. And I think what we're helping B2B companies right now respond to is this channel shift that I alluded to initially. When I say the shift is now when you look at a B2B buyer, boy, just the demographics and just expectations of that B2B buyer across all of our clients that are operating B2B models have just changed dramatically. And those expectations, Nigel, as you referenced, are really coming from some of our experiences as consumers. And while they don't have those same expectations from a consumer perspective, I'll tell you, they do want similar just customer engagement as you experience in your daily lives as you do your job for the company that you work for. And when we talk to our clients, I tell you, what we're helping them is really compete against some of the big behemoths that are out there that are providing these enhanced B2B models. Here I'm suggesting people like Amazon Business, like one of the big, obviously, marketplaces in the world. And when you consider the scope of that business to the tidal wave that we alluded to previously, the scope of that business is enormous when you can think about over 1 million active B2B clients on Amazon Business, for example, that are represented by over 1,000 different providers in the supply chain. That is an enormous scale when you think about just a branded manufacturer, discrete manufacturer, distributor trying to compete with that assortment or the corresponding services with that. And so that channel shift is really what we're trying to help our clients adapt to right now when they look to evolve B2B models and the way that they're going to market.
What I was going to say is that the subject of channel conflict comes up a lot in the research we do, a lot of the B2B manufacturers or wholesalers are very concerned about not introducing any conflict into the channel. And so how do we actually create a digital model that doesn't displace particular parts of that sort of ecosystem they've already built? And sometimes there are people that are looking to actively disrupt the channel, which is fine. But that many manufacturers and wholesalers, they're dependent on that supply chain channel, and they don't want to disrupt it, but they want to be able to create the accessibility of their product to directly to the business buyer, which is an important part of their strategy, right, in terms of how you figure out how to solve this problem.
So Nigel, you've written some really interesting articles on business transformation. So I'd love to hear, what do you really see in terms of impact on these business objectives and KPIs through order management and supply chain?
So this whole area of business transformation, I sort of alluded to at the beginning. It's about changing the business model, driving revenue through new tools, new technologies. The order management component is a critical component, right? It's about being able to meet and satisfy customer expectations. And a lot of the investment in digital transformation to date has frankly taken place in what I consider to be the low-hanging fruit of digital transformation. It's touching some experiences, looking at the existing customer journey. But when you really consider the opportunity that's out there to fundamentally reshape the business around emerging technology to create new sources of value for customers, which is what a lot of B2B manufacturers, producers, and wholesalers have the opportunity to do, to engage with their customers in a fundamentally different way. It presents a whole new set of opportunities for them. And I often try and use this I have this formula I like to use to explain to executives what's going on, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about investing in, say, digital experiences. Digital transformation gets labeled to be a lot of things. And I use this formula, sort of very simple formula: experience over expectation equals perceived value. And in the consumer world, that's pretty easy to see. You have a set of experiences, you have a set of expectations. So you put some numbers in there: 100 over 100 equals 1, right? So when a company invests in transformation, they look at improve the experience. So you try and move the experience number up to 200, so you get a doubling in perceived value. What happens is, of course, the expectations of the person, the buyer or the person that's using the product, are constantly going up. And so even though you're moving the dial on the top number, the bottom number is going up to match it. So you don't often see the actual change in value, perceived value from the customer, as you're just tweaking around the digital experiences. To really get a disruptive impact in the marketplace, you have to make some pretty radical changes. And that means you've not just got to look at the digital experiences, you've actually got to look at the operations of the business. You've got to look at how you actually produce products, how you plan manufacturing, how you plan to be able to develop customized products and configurable products, and be able to tailor those to particular expectations, how you communicate the differentiation of features and value sets of those products. All of these things are inherently much more complex in a B2B world, because you've got more than one buyer, right? You've got the person that's actually buying the product. You might have somebody who's specifying the product. You might have somebody who's actually using the product. You might have somebody who's designing the product into another product to go to another customer. So there's a much more complex sort of scenario where you've got multiple buyers that you're trying to satisfy those expectations on. And so it becomes sort of inherently exponentially more complicated for these firms. So having really comprehensive order management, supply chain management, manufacturing planning systems that can connect from the customer all the way through to production, and not only for the supply, but also handling returns and processing those, to keep the customer expectations at least in the level in balance, is a critical challenge for companies. And then if they really want to get to disruptive performance, then thinking about what are the outcomes the customer's trying to get to, and how can we use the technology to deliver outcomes in a new way, is really where the disruptive opportunities lie.
Yeah, Nigel, such a great point. And when I think about that equation that you just alluded to, again, what's the experience, but what was your expectation? And that's the corresponding value. But when you think about this, for us, when we engage with some of our B2B clients, that expectation begins with just that, again, my early reference around that contractual relationship that the buyer has with the seller. Like, that is where my expectation is actually starting. Meaning, we've agreed to some way that we're going to do business. and that's around all these corresponding terms and conditions. Now it comes to the engagement piece. Now I'm finally going to engage with you on just products you sell and the corresponding services you offer around that. So now I've got an experience, a real-time experience that now should be coupled with my expectation. And in the case of these B2B models, you might imagine as customers have gone through traditional channels and just selling direct through channel partners or resellers. Okay, I got to find some inventory for these orders and ship them out, but as they evolve in these business models around digital transformation we've been alluding to, and they begin now to participate in new models, whether it's a manufacturer selling directly to the end user is one. Maybe it's a manufacturer now taking products and syndicating those out into marketplaces. There's another one. And as soon as they started getting into these new models, suddenly they're now trying to meet various expectations on these B2B buyers. And those are some common challenges on where does inventory sit? How do I optimize inventory across all these different channels and meet, again, these SLAs or just these governing expectations? Again, that is the whole way that our company started doing business together.
We're actually seeing in the research the B2B shoppers or buyer expectations start to mirror the B2C, right? So, you know, even if I'm a B2B buyer, if I'm buying other commercial products, I'm still probably buying for my personal life in Amazon, right? Or I'm using Netflix or whatever. So my expectations are being set not by the company I'm buying from. They're being set by every other digital experience I have in my life. So I'm bringing those expectations into my commercial role, right? As a buyer, I'm now expecting my commercial suppliers to give me the same kind of experience that Amazon or Netflix does. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't, I think, understand.
And one of those main points of experience is inventory. Do you got it? You better be able to promise that you have that inventory when I'm engaging with you.
Don't sell me something you can't deliver.
Don't sell me something you can't deliver.
So, and this, you know, going back to B2C expectations bidding into B2B, you know, if I can have a Nespresso machine and have an automatic delivery of Nespresso pods, then if I buy a machine from you as a business supplier, why can't you automatically supply me all of the components I need for that? And why can't I just subscribe to that? And that's the expectation of the business buyer today, that you're going to be able to supply a subscription to fulfill all of the ongoing needs of the buyer. And I think that's something that often gets misunderstood, right?
Yeah.